This is the I Hate Football podcast. Thank you, everybody, for joining me tonight. Joined by my boy Will from the 305 Sports Now podcast. What's going on, buddy?
How's it going, man? Had a little technical difficulties earlier, dude, with my equipment, dude.
Because
So
you're
that's
hanging out with me. Because you're hanging out with me. That's
yeah, it
that's
happens to be
that's
always with
that's
you,
what
dude.
that's
It
what
doesn't
that's
matter
what
if
happens.
it doesn't matter if it's you alone or we're in a panel. If you're somewhere around the vicinity of StreamYard, the thing tends to collapse. So it's
You
pretty funny.
know, I get it's my fault a lot. You know what I mean? I have heard that throughout my throughout my life. Just holds true again with you, bro. Even on the
Your
podcast side of things.
your fault. Maybe I need an upgrade to my laptop. Either or. So
I-
it could
I'm
be.
I'm I'm gonna take it as it's just my fault. For some reason I'm bringing the bad energy. It's causing interference somewhere. I don't know, brother. I don't know. But we figured it out. Though. We figured it out. A few minutes late, but we figured it out. All is good. All is good, man. So, figured we got OTAs for the majority of teams, man. Started to. I think everybody's in OTAs this week,
Yeah.
and we are 98 days from the start of the NFL season. Less than 100 days. That's a beautiful thing. But who's counting, right? And so we figured, as we start to get closer, we do some divisional reviews, man, and we're gonna do a little bit of little AFC South talk today, man. And to me, one of those divisions, that's interesting, really across the board because of the quarterback situations, right? And when you look at, a team like Houston, they have the most established, quarterback, right? In CJ Stroud, right? Last year, a team that finished, 11-6, but they won the division, but definitely regressed from what they had been in 2023, right? I mean, a team that, CJ Stroud won. He was the offensive rookie of the year. Guy lit it up, had the best, rookie quarterback season, of all time. Probably up until Jane Daniels, in 24. But a guy who was ascending. People were talking about him, in the top 5, top 6 quarterbacks. MVP candidate. And 24 came around, and there was a little bit of a regression. And I think where they got lucky is that they played in a division where the teams in the division just didn't make them pay for it. But I think people expected more. That 11-6 division winner. But I definitely think that the fans probably expected a little bit more than what they got from the Texans last year.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. The AFC South is playing. They suck. I mean, it's not a very good division, all right, at all. It's kind of a doldrum. To say, hey, Steve, how you
My
going, buddy?
boy Steve.
Yeah, man, Steve Malloy. All right, go subscribe to his podcast as well, Finns Talk Sports Network.
For sure.
All right, awesome. Yeah, no, I mean it's not a very good division. I mean, let's be honest. CJ Stroud went through what they call is the sophomore wall, and there's film on you. Okay, let's be honest. There's film on you. People have game tape on you. Defenses adjust. They know how to adjust you. They know your nicks and knacks and so on. And that's pretty much what happened to CJ Stroud. All in all, he didn't have a bad season. Okay, he had a pretty decent season. I have the numbers with me. He threw for almost 4,000 yards. So they're over 3,700 yards passing. His interception numbers were the problem, though. For 20 touchdowns, he had 12 picks. So that's kind of a problem. But then again, they just find you out, and that's exactly what happens with a lot of these quarterbacks. I think you have a bounce back year, to be honest with you, even without Stephon Diggs. I think you have a bounce back year as well, with Tank Dell, and they have a really good running game as well. Does Houston, and I like the coaching of DeMeco Ryan. That defense comes to play every single week in and week out. So I do think that that team will be led by their defense, like it was last season. But I also think that we'll see CJ Stroud come back to somewhat of his rookie form that he had his first season coming out of Ohio State.
Yeah, the offense with them, again, we didn't expect to see in 24, what we saw based on 23, right? You had Bobby Slowick come in, from the Niners. DeMeco Ryans brought him in. This guy came in with a lot of hype, right? Came from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. A guy who came in and really helped out with CJ Stroud, helped him really have that great rookie year. Regressed in 24, and then they got rid of him, right? A little bit of a quick hook to me, in my opinion, especially when you consider what you had, at the offensive line position. Guys that just weren't good. Laramie Tunsil, you hear, oh man, he got traded to the to the Commanders, right? and you're like, man, why did they do that? And then you dig deeper into the numbers and you realize, well, Laramie Tunsil was the highest penalized player in the NFL last year. And I didn't know that until I started like digging through numbers. I was like, damn, Laramie Tunsil, I didn't expect that, right?
Surprised.
A lot of just poor O-line play, right? Nobody would. I think he was the quarterback who had, I think he was fourth in least amount of time to throw, and the only quarterbacks that he was behind were, I think it was Drake May, Kirk Cousins, who's the other one, and Geno Smith, right? So he was fourth in least amount of time available to throw. So when you take a look at those numbers, right, you really do realize, man, that there's probably some reasons why he struggled, why that offense didn't look the same way. When you think of what they have outside, right, a guy like Nico Collins, who a lot of people are saying is, he's a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL right now, kind of hard to argue. Losing Tank Dell kind of throughout the season obviously hurt, a really gruesome leg injury. Who knows? If he's going to be back in 25 officially. I think he's on. I've heard PUP list and everything for him. So, who knows? They get rid of Stephon Diggs, another big loss. Obviously, he was hurt, but they get rid of him, and so, what did they replace those guys with? Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk, to me at this point, is he a 2? I don't know if he's a 2 at this point still. When the Jacksonville didn't really perform. I don't know how you feel about Christian Kirk.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's the answer, especially when you had a guy like Stephon Diggs that's a playmaker. And you're right, I forgot about that when I was looking into Stroud. He got sacked, I think about 20 plus times, maybe even more. So he ate the ground quite a bit for his team. So he was running for his life throughout this whole season. That was an issue. Going back to the Slovak comment, it might have been an early hook, and you're a 49ers fan, so you'll probably be able to answer this question better than me. But one of the things I've noticed about Kyle Shanahan, guys, especially in the offensive side of the ball, he really doesn't allow them to call plays. He's the one that calls all the plays in game time situations for the 49ers, which is the same problem we see now with Mike McDaniel, that he doesn't let his coordinators call plays. That we've seen, like when he makes mistakes as a Miami Dolphin head coach, as a play caller. And that's probably the same thing that happened to Slovak as well when he was out there for the Texans. So I think that D'Amico should have given him another year to see if he kind of like learned from his mistakes than just hooking him right away. I mean, they were a playoff team last year as well, so I think they should have given him another chance as far as that goes.
Yeah, I think, to me, like I said, quick hook, in my opinion. Again, you just wrapped up year 2, and when you look at, the poor play, at the O-line position, the injuries that they had, I think you really could have made a case for him coming back for another year. I was a little bit surprised, because after the 23 season, there was some rumblings, right? Some hype. I mean, Slowick ended up taking some head coaching interviews, and there was talk of him in the very near future, becoming a one of the young gun, right, hot head coaching candidates, right? And so again, little bit surprising, at least to me. When you look at what he accomplished in his first year there, thought it was enough to give him the benefit of the doubt. D'Amico Ryan saw it differently, and off he went. He replaced him with a guy named Nick Caley, who was the passing game coordinator for the Rams. If it's Sean McVay, anybody associated with Sean McVay is immediately elevated 3 slots and lands a prominent coordinator position or head coaching position or something. It's ridiculous. Like it never fails with Sean McVay.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, but like I said, I do expect the offense to be a bit better this year. However, but again, it all goes down to the offensive line. If the offensive line blocks for Stroud, he'll be able to make his reads a lot better. Hopefully, Tank Dell's able to come back from his injury. And I know it was a gruesome. I forgot about that. I know it was a gruesome injury that happened, unfortunately.
Bad. Was
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, last season it was a very unfortunate injury, and losing a guy like Stephon Diggs, it was a big loss as well. But I do like Nico, man, and Nico is a baller, man. He's a gamer. But you have to rely on that running game. That running game with Mixon is going to be, which was very solid last year, is going to be very much needed yet again. A quarterback's best friend is a solid running game. If the running game works, he's able to do play action, and the quarterback is able to make reads and be able to coordinate it where he wants to put the ball, because of the fact that you have to respect the running game.
Yep. No, and that's one of the big questions for me. And in the notes, some of the stuff that I had was, the offense is going to be, the big question, because if you look at the defense, a defense that, probably, you can put in the top three in terms of defensive backfield. I mean, again, you got the highest paid corner in the league, and Derek Stingley. You traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Jalen Petrie is back there. You still got Jimmy Ward, who's really good. You got Kamari Lassiter that they drafted from University of Georgia. I mean, the defensive backfield is legit. You got Will Anderson, at one of the edges. Aziz Al-Shire. Again, the defense is a nice unit, and I think could be even with C.J. Stroud at quarterback, could be the best unit on that team.
Yeah, no, the defense is gonna be really solid. Will Anderson had 11 sacks last season. Okay, and Daniel Hunter had 12.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Daniel Hunter's there too. That dude's a stud.
yeah, 12 and 11. So they're gonna be fine. I think defense side of the ball, I'm not worried about. What I'm worried about is the offense. And again, it's all about the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have a line that works, nothing can happen for you. There's a reason why Tom Brady used to buy steak dinners for his quarterbacks every single time. He came up clean every single game, because without the offensive line, the offense can't move. And without a good defensive line, the defense stumbles as well. So I think that they have to be simpatico with one another. But again, I do expect a bit of a better season from Houston.
Yeah,
as far as offensively how things go.
We'll see how they go, man. See how they can fill that wide receiver 2 position. Until Tank Dell comes back. The kid they drafted was Jalen Higgins, was from Iowa State. Don't know if you knew that he's the first second round player to ever land a fully guaranteed contract. I
didn't know that
the other day. I was like, wow, look at that. Yeah, first second round player to ever land a fully guaranteed contract. It was like 4 years, like $11.5 million or something like that, and every bit of it guaranteed. I was like, damn, okay.
Iowa State had a very good season offensively, so that could be a sleeper for that could be a sleeper for that team as far as waiting for Tank Dell to come back. Chris Kirk is okay. I remember him when he killed the Dolphins. He was really good in Arizona. Went to Jacksonville, with that huge deal. Never lived up to the contract. To be honest with you, something against Miami, he did very well against the Dolphins, but yeah, of course, but I mean, he's not Stephon Diggs. No, he's not. But again, man, a team that I would imagine would be most people's pick for for division winner. Next up in the division, man, is the Indianapolis Colts, and a team that is interesting to me, kind of similar to the other two teams not named the Texans because of the quarterback situation, right? First and foremost, R.I.P. Jim Irsay, one of the more popular owners, in the NFL, and a guy who I didn't realize, to be honest with you, just because I didn't, again, not a team that I follow closely, but a guy that was, beloved by his former players. Did not realize that was a thing. But a guy who battled some demons throughout his life, and I think, obviously, kind of caught up to him, but definitely a big loss for that organization. But again, man, the most interesting part of this team, because again, when you look at the team, I feel like, the skill positions are, I think, in a good place, right? I mean, you start at receiver, right? You got a guy, you got a guy on the outside like Alec Pierce, who's a guy that can get down the field. He's a burner, can take the top off the defense. Your kind of intermediate route, you got a guy like Michael Pittman, right? Who is a legit receiver. A guy that with a good quarterback is going to put up numbers. And then they drafted Tyler Warren, the kid from the tight end from Penn State. Yes, who I think is really good. So you have one of the better offensive lines in the league. When you talk about, you got Quentin Nelson and some other guys there on the offensive line. Josh Downs is another receiver, possession guy, that kind of, slot guy. Running game, obviously. I mean, how many backs in the league are better than Jonathan Taylor? He's probably the top 5 back, at this point, in the league. So, but then you get to the quarterback position, and
I would make the argument, and I don't know if you'd push back on it. I would make the argument that you've got the two worst quarterbacks of the 2024 season on this team. I don't know. I don't know if you push back on that, but that is my assessment of the situation of their quarterback play in 2024.
Yeah, I agree with you. Anthony Richardson was drafted as a project. He wasn't really well coached when he was at Florida. A lot of athletic ability, arm strength, and when he's on, he could be on, but he is more, I guess you could say, Hyde than Jekyll. I mean, pretty much he's unstable, not very good. He's not. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback, to be frank with you. He's really gonna need to rely on. He needs the running game and his legs to get him where he needs to go as far as his success in the National Football League, because he is absolutely terrible. I mean, he's just terrible. I have his numbers here from last year if you want to hear him out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, good God, man.
Probably the same ones I wrote down.
Yeah, man. He had 1,800 yards, a little over 1,800 yards, 8 touchdowns, 12 picks, completion percentage not way, but like under 50, which is not good.
47.7 completion percentage. I've never seen that before. I've never seen that before.
No, it was horrible, especially for start. Like I said, he was drafted as a project. He was supposed to be like this next big thing, like Michael Vick type of guy, because of his speed, athleticism, arm strength, the whole 9 yards, and he's just been awful as well. And they got for Jonathan Taylor, man, who should have been a Dolphin, by the way. You know, a lot of Dolphin fans will argue they passed up on him. He's pretty much kept that whatever good of offense that team has is Jonathan Taylor, and that team is relying itself on being a very physical team, as you can tell from the running game. They're relying on itself to be very physical. That's why they have a good O-line as well, because they can run the football really strongly. So that's something that is very, very key for Indianapolis. But Anthony Richardson is not the answer. Like, he's just not the answer.
I told there's a good buddy of mine that I hang out with. I hang out with him at the cigar shop a good bit. And we were talking about Anthony Richardson being drafted, and I was like, that's the kind of pick that gets a GM fired.
Yeah.
That's the kind of pick that gets a GM fired. The kid, when you look at him, right, the measurables, yeah, and again, they fell in love with the measurables, right? Because he was not that good at Florida.
No, he wasn't.
He was not good at Florida
at all.
He wasn't super highly recruited coming out of high school. Right, wasn't like the 5-star kid or anything. Goes to Florida, they weren't good with him while he was there. He started, I think, 12 games, 13 games, something like that, while he was at Florida.
And he had like a couple good games that people thought were like, oh my God, but that's about it. He's been a project his entire life.
Yeah,
he was recruited as a project because of his athleticism, and then he came into the NFL as a project. You don't draft projects as your franchise quarterback. Just the Dolphins did that with Ryan Tannehill, but Ryan Tannehill had a much better senior season than Anthony Richardson had. And that's just something that the Colts just don't understand. They were never prepared to draft. They were prepared for what Andrew Luck did. So Andrew Luck retiring kind of, I guess caught him off guard a little bit.
Definitely caught them by surprise for sure.
You caught him off guard, and he ain't coming back because he likes the way his life is right now.
Of course.
He's coaching as well. But Richardson is not the answer. So if I'm the Colts this upcoming season, I'm looking for quarterback in the draft. It's going to be a very draft heavy draft this year for quarterbacks. So I do think that the Colts need to like really shop and take a look and have Anthony Richardson backup. They just stink. He's not a quarterback. He's the worst quarterback right now in the entire division. Hands down, he's the worst quarterback.
He may be the worst quarterback in the NFL, bro.
Oh yeah,
legitimately, and again, measurables
starter,
aside.
Yes.
Yeah, measurables aside, because measurables don't win games, right? So let's put the love affair with 6'5", 245. Well, he looks like a defensive end. Well, he throws like a defensive end.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the problem. Is he may look like a defensive end, and he may run like a wide receiver, but he throws like a defensive end. Okay. And that is the problem. 47.7 completion percentage is legitimately I can't think of a worse completion percentage. I know Tim Tebow, for a stretch had a really bad completion percentage. I don't know that he was ever 47
Tim
0.7%
Tebow
back.
at least led his team into a playoff and won a
Yeah,
playoff game.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
that's something you got to give Tim. But this guy,
Exactly.
no, you're not going to
Yeah,
make the playoffs
going
with.
3 for 16 in the game, which again unheard of with the insanity. That was insanity. They beat the
Look,
Steelers in that game.
yeah, I guess with athleticism, you could probably say, like, for example, Lamar
Mm-hmm.
Jackson is the closest to a project recently that you could think of. Drafted late in the first round. The Ravens took a chance on him. As a matter of fact, to give him credit, Stephen Ross said we should have traded down to get Lamar Jackson.
A lot
But
of
you
people
can't tell me that
automatically saying
Lamar
that.
was that, I'm sorry?
Said a lot of people are probably kicking themselves for not taking Lamar Jackson because
Yeah,
the Ravens
absolutely.
took him with the last pick in the first round. They traded
No,
back in and took him.
exactly, but originally they wanted him to play receiver, and he's like, I'm not playing receiver, I'm a quarterback, and he stuck to his guns, and so on. But you could say that Lamar Jackson had a much better career. Obviously, guy won the Heisman Trophy.
Oh my God, of
Much
course.
better career than Anthony Richardson had at college. I mean, it was
of course.
the guy was a baller.
Comparison. Yeah, there's no comparison there.
No,
Lamar
there isn't
Jackson. Yeah, Lamar
at
Jackson
all.
at Louisville was an absolute stud.
Yeah.
Again, so much so that he won the Heisman.
Yeah.
And then you look at what he's done when he's gotten in the NFL, 2 MVPs. I mean, the guy is always above 60% completion percentage. Always. He doesn't turn the ball over.
Nope.
He's had 1 year of double-digit picks, Lamar Jackson has. So, again, for whatever people thought that he, remember Bill Polian famously came out, the GM at the time of the Colts, famously came out and said Lamar Jackson should switch to receiver.
Yeah.
Obviously he's proven him wrong. Bill Polian came out. I mean, he owned that one. He said, yeah, I was wrong on that assessment. But, again, when you're comping, the comp ends at athletic, black quarterbacks. Like that's where it ends because
yeah, of course.
Again, Lamar Jackson is an absolute stud. And I'm telling you, man, it's not because, I'm not Nostradamus or anything, man, but again, I know what my eyes told me, and I saw that guy play, in college while he was there. And again, was never great in high school, was never great in college. I don't understand how that translates to being good in the NFL. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you fall in love with the measurables, like, oh man, we can do this or that. Listen, you can't do anything with them if you can't complete a pass, and then, to kind of add insult to injury, last year where he was like, oh, I got to come out, and they're like, you got to go, I was tired. And you're like, bro, what do you mean you had to come out because you were tired, bro? Like you're the quarterback. That's not how this works. So again, man, a lot to be desired from that quarterback room. Danny Dimes, obviously Daniel Jones, a guy who was released, from the Giants after he went 2-8 as a starter. He goes 2-8 as a starter, gets benched, complains about getting benched, gets released, ends up in Minnesota. They brought him in as kind of an insurance policy, for Sam Darnold. Never saw the field in Minnesota. And of course, leaves as a free agent and lands in Indianapolis. Again, terrible quarterback play. Gardner Minshew kind of is the only one that really comes to mind last year as like as comparable, bad quarterback play because he was terrible with the Raiders. But Daniel Jones, man, I mean, again, if that's your answer at this point in his career, I don't know, man. And if Anthony Richardson can't beat him out, you really have to start to consider, what are we going to do with Anthony Richardson? I mean, I think the best thing for him would be, a change of scenery. If somebody's willing to give you anything for him, I have no idea. But the bust tag and that volume is going to grow, really, really loud if he doesn't beat out Daniel Jones for that starting job.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I never liked the Daniel Jones pick anyway. I thought the Giants reached for him because he had that one good season,
100%,
or decent season at Duke.
And even he was better in college than Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Like he was better in college than Anthony Richardson. I mean, Daniel Jones played 4 years at Duke. I mean, he, the guy at least was good in college.
He was.
At least he was good in college. But Anthony Richardson, I mean,
and he was drafted because he was good, but he was also very cerebral. That was one of the measurables on him. That he could see the field, he could read defenses. That's something that people that scouts had on Daniel Jones. I didn't quite see it. I thought he overachieved a little bit at Duke for what Duke is, but I mean, again, he goes to the Giants. Gets money. He got paid very well, handsomely by the Giants, and then gets traded to Minnesota. Now he's in Indianapolis competing with Anthony Richardson. And I agree with you. If Anthony Richardson can't beat him out, you're looking for a quarterback next season in the draft.
Yeah, no. And I think at this point, I think you are, regardless.
Yeah. No, regardless,
right?
You're right.
Because again, when you're looking at the team, I mean, the team around him, like we talked about, I mean, you have to like the O-line. You have to like the skill position around him. The defense, has some dudes. I mean, that D-line, you got DeForest Buckner. You got Kwity Paye, the end from Michigan they took with a first round pick. The other defensive end that they took, name escapes me now. The DN, which is Leatu Latu, who was their first round pick last year, who a lot of people were saying was the best D lineman in the draft. Zaire Franklin, at linebacker, who's kind of a budding star. He's one of those kind of young guys who's going to become a household name coming up. I mean, they traded for Trevarius Ward, so on and so forth. I mean, you've got pieces, on that team. It's just, with no quarterback, it's going to be hard to really do anything. And I would say they're as close to no quarterback as you can get.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like I said,
just not
next
good.
year they're going to the draft. 1000%.
That would be that would be my guess.
Yeah. And there is talent there. Like they have a good O-line, they have a good running game.
Yeah,
and have a couple decent receivers. So there's talent there.
100%, man. I mean, again, they're not lacking for talent. They're just lacking for a good quarterback. They're lacking for a competent, quarterback. I mean,
they're kind of like the Jets. Like I, as a Dolphin fan, I hate to say this, but I think the Jets need. I think if Justin Fields lands in the right situation and it works for him, the Jets could be sneaky because they have Breece Hall. And they also have Garrett Wilson as well, and they still have that defense. So I think that's what the Colts are right now. They have a beast of a running back, they have a solid line, and they have nice skill position players. Tyler Warren is going to be a good security blanket because he's freaking the size of a building, as well. So if they can get good quarterback play, the Colts could compete with Houston somewhere down the line. But until they fix that quarterback situation, they're not going to do that. They need their Bo Nix. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say. They need their Bo Nix.
It's going to be hard to compete without a quarterback, man. Like I said, I would imagine they're going to be a really, really run-heavy team, with that O-line, and the talent they have at running back. You got Jonathan Taylor, Khalil Herbert backing him up, who's obviously not a big dude, not a guy who's going to run, 20 times a game, but a capable third down guy, but I would imagine this upcoming season is gonna include a healthy dose of Jonathan Taylor, without a doubt. I would imagine he's gonna be one of those guys, that if you're a fantasy football player, probably somebody who you want to target at the running back position, because I would imagine they are going to ride him to the damn wheels fall off.
Oh, definitely.
So it'll be interesting to see. But again, everything hinges on that quarterback position for that man. So next team in the division. Speaking of quarterbacks, Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence signed a 5-year, $275 million extension last year, and has not lived up to it, to put it mildly. All right, he's getting paid $55 million a year. And coming into the season after the 24 season that he had last year, his season ended after a concussion. Started 10 games, went 2-8 in the 10 games he started. 11 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and season cut short. When he took that big hit from Azeez Al-Shire when they were playing Houston. Season-ending concussion. But a guy who, first pick in the draft. He's the next big thing. And what's crazy is the other day I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw somebody post. I can't remember the handle now, but they posted a picture of Trevor Lawrence next to Daniel Jones and their numbers. And when I tell you, they were basically identical. They literally were identical in terms of wins and losses, passing yards, everything, QBR, everything was, legitimately like identical. And I say that to say that if you're the Jaguars, that is not what you want to see. That is not, those are not the kind of numbers that you want to see when you're paying your franchise quarterback $55 million a year.
Yeah. Now Trevor Lawrence, the guy I was completely wrong about. I thought he was a can't miss pick. He was a flat out baller at Clemson when he was there. Defeated Alabama to win a national championship. I still like Trevor. I think Trevor is much better than Daniel Jones, to be frank with you. athletically speaking, I think he's still a better quarterback. But you and I have had this conversation before about system, and I'm wondering if it's the system that has really shot Trevor Lawrence quite a bit, and that's where I'm at as well, because the arm talent was there, the athleticism is there, the accuracy was there, the height is there, all the measurables that you want out of a quarterback, were there. He had some flashes too, in his rookie season. It wasn't like he's just been horrible the whole entire time. It wasn't Ryan Leaf. But he's had some flashes, and including even against that Dolphin game, he had some stretches where he played really well against the Finns, and it was that fourth quarter turnovers and stuff like that that kind of cost him the game, the first game of the season against the Finns. But the bottom line is that something hasn't worked with Trevor Lawrence. Let's see what Liam Cohen could do, as far as coaching goes, and see if he has a better season. But the Jaguars, that's also a messed up franchise too. I don't think there's any stability with that franchise at all. They make a lot of the same mistakes the Dolphins do, as well. They mess up a lot, as far as like whether it's drafting or whether it's free agency. They wrong coaching hires as well. Freaking Urban Meyer, who wasn't a fit for the NFL, and Doug Peterson, who kind of ran out of Philadelphia. You hire him as well. So now you go with a young guy like Liam. So we'll see what happens. They have a pretty decent running game. I mean, they can have like a two-headed monster with Bigsby and Etienne. That's something you can work on. And Brian Thomas had a really good season, to say the least. He was a 1,000-yard receiver, so we'll see how that goes for this season. I don't see them really be passing Houston. Definitely not. But let's see if Trevor has a better season with Liam as a coach.
I think you kind of hit it on the head, and that's kind of what I had in my notes also, is the situation around him. I think you gave him Urban Meyer, an absolutely disaster of a hire on the field. Then off the field, he had the issues, right? With he stayed behind in Columbus, in his bar with that chick dancing on him instead of going back to Jacksonville with the team. He assaulted the punter, sued him, because he. Urban Meyer kicked him, or something like that during pregame warmups, just a disaster of a hire. You weren't surrounding him with competent people, on the field in terms of coaching, right? And it starts. I've always said that, man. It starts at the top with ownership. Shad Khan has been a disaster as an owner, a guy who meddles way too much, a guy who he's not a football guy, he's a businessman, and bought the team. He's For my liking, if I was a Jaguars fan, I think he's way too visible. He meddles way too much. But then, again, is what I've always said, alignment, right? When you talk about good ownership, good front office, good quarterback, right? You've had poor ownership, poor front office, and it's translated to poor quarterback play. Now, do I think he's better than the numbers he's put up? Yes, I do. But unfortunately, the numbers are the numbers, and now the numbers are $55 million a year. So when you're looking at it through that lens, you have to expect more from a guy like Trevor Lawrence, who was taken with the first overall pick and now is being compensated as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You have to be able to consistently win above what it is that's going on around you. Again, I've mentioned a lot. Several guys are the system. Josh, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, guys like that. Those guys are the system. Everybody else is part of the system. Trevor Lawrence has proven that he is not a system. Mm-hmm. For him to succeed, he's got to be part of a good system. And unfortunately, when you look at the Jaguars, what they've done, I think the word malpractice kind of comes to mind with what they've done and what they've equipped them with. It's difficult to succeed under those circumstances. I think now, again, right, not that long ago, before they hired Liam Cohen, they had Trent Baalke as a GM, a guy who nobody liked. Coaches were not going to Jacksonville. They missed out on some coaching candidates because they did not want to work for Trent Baalke, right? A guy with a checkered history, a guy who was with the Niners, was executive of the year one time with the Niners, drafted some really good pieces with the Niners, helped put together those Jim Harbaugh-led, teams. But a guy who was an alcoholic, I mean, the reports are out there. I mean, he had to go to rehab, and the whole deal, would routinely show up to work drunk when he was in San Francisco. The guy was a disaster, and that's why they let him go. But again, landed in Jacksonville and kind of the same thing, rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. A lot of coaches didn't take interviews with the Jags because of a guy like Trent Baalke. They got rid of him. and then they replaced him with a 35-year-old guy that they brought from the Rams. All right, a kid named James Gladstone. Say kid, he's 35. But it'll be really interesting to see how that works out for him. You know, they traded up to get Travis Hunter. I personally have some doubts about Travis Hunter, if I'm being honest. Like, I understand the talent and I understand the allure of drafting a guy like Travis Hunter. This isn't college, though. We'll see how they line him up. We'll see if they put him in a position to succeed. I'm not saying he's not going to be good. I simply have my doubts about how good he's going to be, what kind of impact he is going to make. I'm not all the way sure. I would be weary, especially with what they gave up for him. That's why the Browns traded back, because essentially they gave up, it was like a quarterback ransom is what they ended up giving up to move up and draft Travis Hunter. I don't know. I think that team has talent. If you line up Travis Hunter on the other side, like you mentioned, Brian Thomas, a guy who is a baller. That dude can play, right? The O-line seems to be, we'll see. I think you have some good running backs. I mean, they've talked about trading, Travis Etienne because they like Tank Bigsby so much. They drafted Bashal Tutin from Virginia Tech, the running back that, as a Miami fan, you know well, because he ate them alive last year in that Miami Virginia Tech game. Ridiculous. They ran all over them, and I'm sure you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, ridiculous. You know, they got rid of Evan Ingram. I was a little bit surprised about that one. He ends up in Denver. You know, Brenton Strange, we'll see. I mean, he's okay. I don't know that I like him as a starter. So I don't think you're bad around Trevor Lawrence this year. The big thing that I think, or the big things that I feel like Trevor Lawrence is going to have at his disposal this year, hopefully a competent head coach / play caller. I think Liam Cohen is going to end up being the play caller. And I just feel like stability is going to go a long way for Trevor Lawrence to be able to take that next step and start to earn that, $55 million a year price tag that he's got.
Yeah, I think if you put Trevor Lawrence in the Bills, if you put Trevor Lawrence in the Ravens, you would have a different Trevor Lawrence, because you have a system and ownership that, from top to bottom is and a coaching staff that knows how to put their players in the best position to succeed. The Jaguars are not that team, at least not right now. So we'll see how Coach Cohen does. We'll see how if it's an adjustment. But I just think that after getting beaten up for so many years, I think that it eventually shoots you down as a quarterback. Look, David Carr is a perfect example. The guy got sacked like 9,000 times, up to a point where he was hearing footsteps even when there weren't any footsteps. Yeah. So you don't want that from Trevor Lawrence. Because that means he doesn't trust his offensive line. So those are things that you have to worry about. But if it works and you get the ball quickly out of his hands and so on, and just giving him a little bit of rhythm, he could be very successful. Like I said, measurables, the talent, the competition in college as well was really solid. Won a championship, beat up pretty much a team full of NFL players in Alabama for a national championship. Dabo Swinney had a team full of NFL players as well. Those teams were very stacked on both Clemson and Alabama side. So I just think that he has what it takes. It's just a matter of putting him in a position where he's able to show it, and then making the adjustments to make him show it. And that's where I think that hopefully Coach Cohen could do for him. But he's definitely not Daniel Jones. He's definitely not Anthony Richardson, who, like I said, I think Daniel Jones overachieved. I think Anthony Richardson stinks. Okay, altogether. And I think hopefully we can see who really people expect Trevor Lawrence to be in the National Football League.
Yeah, it's. Again, it was just more a point of reference. But like, if I'm a Jaguars fan, those numbers hurt.
Yeah,
if I'm a Jaguars fan, like, I see those numbers and I'm telling you, they were literally identical. They were literally identical, brother. Like, a couple yards here, a couple points in QBR there, like interceptions, touchdown passes. I mean, it was scary how close those numbers were. So, again, do I think he's better? 100%.
Yeah.
But it's bad when Trevor Lawrence's numbers essentially are identical to Daniel Jones.
Yeah, if you're a fan, you love your team, but you only follow the league superficially, that you just look at numbers, you're like, what's the difference between those two? But if you look at them on the field,
of course,
as well, the eye test, you can see 100%. There's a difference in talent between those two. Yeah. So that's like with Cam Ward. Like when he first came to Miami, what was the reputation on Cam Ward? Oh, he's a turnover machine. he fumbles all the time. But if you ask Wazoo fans, they all loved him. Why? Because he was carrying that team, and he comes here and he gets a better offensive line, and you didn't see those mistakes because the system benefited Cam Ward, and they put position pieces around him, and he had a very good offensive line where he had basically enough time to scan the field and be able to make plays. If you do that for Trevor Lawrence, you're gonna see the results. That's just what I'm saying, and I hope we see the results, and hopefully he's not tainted from getting bashed all over the place, with Jacksonville.
100%.
But as far as the numbers go, you're 100% right. If those numbers are equivalent to each other, I could understand as a Jags fan how you're like, oh, they really reach for this guy. And as an NFL fan, you're like, is this guy really any better than the guy from Duke? So, but again, you look on the field, and you can see there are differences between the two, whether it was a college, even in the pros, right? The few number of times I saw both those guys play, I saw a difference. The Daniel Jones came down to play the Dolphins, and he got his bell rung, as well. He got knocked out of the game, and then Trevor Lawrence, the other hand, the following year played a good 3 quarters before the Dolphins were able to basically pull that game out of the so that's pretty much the difference. But I like Trevor. I'll be honest with you, I like Trevor. I don't think he's lived up to the hype in general, but I do think, like you and I have had the conversation about system. I don't think that they put the right pieces around him, and I don't think he's had the right coaching staff that's made him a better football player in the NFL.
No, yeah, he's definitely paid the price for the incompetence and the malpractice that organization has committed around him. Again, like I told you, Shad Khan is he just meddles, right? He's one of those owners that is very visible, and he's not a football guy. He's a businessman, a successful businessman, but he's made some really bad hires in the front office, which in turn have made some really bad hires at the head coaching position, and just have not surrounded with Trevor Lawrence with enough adults in the building and enough knowledge around him to elevate him and help him live up to that first overall draft pick hype. So we'll see, man. We'll see what this year brings. I think they've got on defense, they've got some dudes also.
Yeah.
First overall pick, a couple years ago in Trayvon Walker, who I still think they should have taken Aiden Hutchinson, not Trayvon Walker, but I think I was right on that one. You got Josh Hines Allen, went from Josh Allen to Josh Hines Allen, but the guy is a legit, pass rusher. You got Eric Armstead, at tackle. You got some, you got
Evan Lloyd as well.
Devin Lloyd, who's a legit middle linebacker, Oluokun, who's led the NFL in tackles a couple years, and so again, you got some nice looking DBs back there with Darnell Savage, Tyson Campbell. Jordan Lewis is a nice nickel back. So you got talent. It's just a matter of getting the right coach and the right staff in there to take advantage of what it is they have going on and elevate that team. But that's a division that is wide open because again, after the Texans, anybody, I don't know, and we're about to talk about them. I don't know that the Titans have enough really to finish second in that division with, but I wouldn't be shocked if either one of those teams, if they live up to the talent, I wouldn't be shocked to see the Colts or the Jaguars finish second. Like I wouldn't be shocked. Now, do I think more than one team from this division makes the playoffs? I do not. I would imagine the only team that gets in is the division winner because the division is just not strong. But I would not be shocked to see either the Jaguars, take a step with Liam Cohen, or the Colts if they get competent quarterback play. They don't need Pro Bowl quarterback play. If they get competent quarterback play, they're a team that I could easily see with the talent around the quarterback and the defense that they have. I could very easily see them finishing second, and I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you as well. They also have the Jaguars also have to be able to turn the ball over as well. Not many interceptions coming from the defensive backfield, so that's another problem they have. So,
yeah, the front seven. Though,
but as far as rushing the passer, pretty good.
Yeah, I like the front seven though. The front seven can get after it for sure.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, like freaking Trevon Walker had 10.5 sacks. So
yeah,
he had a pretty decent season.
Because this first year, man, you're like, oof, man, bust. Because again, I was always a little bit weary about him because at Georgia he didn't do it by himself. He was just surrounded by a bunch of talent. And I always wonder, man, when they took him, again, I would have taken Aiden Hutchinson over him personally. That was, if you're going to go D-line, that year I would have gone with Aiden Hutchinson personally. But again, it's looking like he may live up to to the hype. I mean, he looked good last year after a really poor rookie campaign. But again, man, they have enough in the front seven to have that defense be a good defense. So we'll see what Liam Cohen does in his first year. Hopefully, he figured out how to say Duval. I don't know if you heard him say. You heard him say that when he got hired. you didn't hear him say that after he got hired?
I didn't hear him say
it.
No.
You know how you say where you go Duval.
He butchered Duval.
You say Duval, right? You get 8 U's. Yeah. Instead of doing it that way, he went Duval. That's so he got crucified.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's not from here. He's not from here. I'll give him the benefit
of
the doubt.
Bro, that was amazing. That was amazing. When I heard him say it, I was like, oh no, what are you doing, bro? It was awesome. When I heard him say that, dude, I could not stop laughing.
Yeah, no, of course. That's like Brian Kelly when he tried a Southern accent when he got hired by Louisiana, by LSU.
Look, I can forgive Liam Cohen. Brian Kelly,
that was just awful.
That was awful. That was embarrassing. Like Liam Cohen is a simple mistake. He was on the right path. Brian Kelly was embarrassing, and it was a disaster. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing with that Southern accent? Like, that was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen.
Coach at Cincinnati and coach at Notre Dame, and he freaking comes to LSU like he's from Baton Rouge.
He's like from the Midwest somewhere. Like, come on, man. Stop being cringy, bro. So last team we're going to discuss, man, the Tennessee Titans, the owners of the #1 overall draft pick. And they took Cam Ward from the University of Miami, a guy we know pretty well. There you go. And, a guy who, man, I think could come in year one, man, and actually be pretty good. I don't know if you're, that's me being a homer or that's me being a fan. But I think a guy who, is sitting behind a nice O-line, if we're being honest. And, that could be your best friend as a rookie quarterback, but a guy who played a lot of football, right, in college, and your career leader in touchdown passes and the whole deal. So, again, played 5 years of college ball, a guy who's an adult, a guy who's a leader. You've been seeing it early on. If you've been watching any of the camp reports and any of the Tennessee Titans socials and everything, a guy who came in, day one and kind of owned the position. I don't see Will Levis putting up, any real competition, when it comes to that, to the starting quarterback position, and a guy in Cam Ward who I fully expect to see as a starter from, day one, snap one.
Yeah, not to sound so much like a homer in general, but I'm gonna be very objective. Love the pick. I think Cam's gonna be very successful. I do think he will go through some growing pains, and the reason why I say that is because one of the knocks on Cam is that he holds on to the ball a little too long, and you can't do that in the NFL. Even if you're playing a really poor team that we just talked about, the Jaguars, or in your division, they're gonna crack you. So I think he's gonna learn right away that he can't be so much of a gunslinger because he's gonna turn the ball over. You can't turn the ball over too much in the NFL, and you can't hold on to the ball too long because you have no idea who's coming on your blind side to sack you, serve the football, etc. But I do think he's be very good. He's already from day one. He was throwing with the receivers. First thing he asked for was a playbook. He's a guy that you want on your team because everywhere he's gone, he's had something to prove. 0-star recruit, no one recruited him, goes to Incarnate Ward, balls out. He goes to Wazoo. Oh, he's from Incarnate Ward, balls out. He goes to Miami. Oh, he was a turnover machine in general, balls out. He's the first pick of the draft. He would have been the 7th quarterback pick last season as well. So every little thing that this young man has gone through, there's always been doubters as well. And this is a guy that likes the chip on his shoulder, doesn't like to be patted too much on the back, and he's gonna be very successful. He's already developing chemistry with Calvin Ridley, as you see in some practices as well. He has Xavier Restrepo, who's gonna make the team, and I thought that was a very smart move signing Xavier. I wish they would have drafted him; would have been nicer. But it was a nice move signing him because that could be, if Lockett gets hurt, that's the next man up, and that's your security blanket. If Ward's in trouble, he knows he can find X anywhere on the field, and he'll be able to make a play. He's going to have a very good running game because the Titans do have very good running backs in Tony Pollard, etc. as well. A pretty decent offensive line. Calvin really is a solid receiver, right, as well. So I'm very confident that the Titans will take the next step with Ward. They're going to win more than 3 games with Cam Ward. But I do think for those Titan fans who are watching and people, oh, he's just a Kings fan. No, I am. All right. but I do think we'll see growing pains with Cam only because, again, the knock of him in college is that he tries to overly extend plays when he could just check down or throw the ball away, and he holds on to the ball too long. In the NFL, he'll learn very, very, very quickly from games 1 and 2. You cannot do that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I wouldn't push back on that. I do think, that again, I mentioned, the experience that he brings with him from college, right? A guy that played, a ton of college football, and a guy that had some stuff to clean up when he went from Washington State to Miami, right? They were talking about how much he struggled turning the ball over. What happened? He went to Miami. They were able to coach that out of him, right? They were able to just teach ball security. So little things like that, where I think, again, he's going to take to the coaching. I think what he's got going for him is, like we mentioned, I think he's got a really good offensive line in front of him, right? And I think you got a guy in Calvin Ridley who is one of the best route runners in the NFL, who I think excels at getting open, right? So that's going to help him, right? You got Tyler Lockett, who's obviously, back end of his career, right? But a veteran who I think could help him out, and a guy who gets open, right? So that's going to help him out also. Treylon Burks, if he ever figures it out, right? A guy that they took in the first round, a few years ago, big body, a guy who's got some ability, some physicality to him. I think if they can get him on track and get him to just contribute in any way, again, when you talk about the offensive line, you talk about the running game, you got Tyjae Spears, you got Tony Pollard. I think you got some capable running backs there, right? You surround them with not Pro Bowl, even though Calvin Ridley, I think, with a good year, I think he could argue for a Pro Bowl spot. But again, a guy who's very capable, in Ridley. Tyler Lockett, who's a veteran. Treylon Burks, if he gives you anything. I think you've got enough with some good coaching and some good play calling. I think you've got enough. Will you go through some growing pains? I don't push back on that. He will be a rookie at the end of the day, right? So you can't discount that. But I also think he's got a lot going for him in that he is, for a rookie quarterback, he is a guy who really is a veteran. When you talk about the amount of football he's seen, the amount of football that he's played, the big games he's played in, the whole deal, I don't think that there's going to be any surprises for him, come starting in the NFL, right? I think a guy who, again, is headstrong, he's a leader, a guy whose confidence you don't have to worry about ever leaving him, a guy who is going to be able to work through mistakes, he'll be able to work through those difficulties, and as long as he's getting some competent head coaching from Brian Callahan, who excelled obviously with the Bengals and Joe Burrow, I think they could be decent. Now, am I thinking winning record? No, not necessarily. But a team with a pretty good defense and, an offense that I think will be able to move the ball and will be able to score some points. So again, do I think they're going to win, 9-10 games? No, I don't. But I think Cam Ward personally, I wouldn't be shocked if he won, Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised either. And like I said, the only thing I'm saying is, like, for Titan fans and for people that just think that I myself am just going to praise Cam Ward because I'm all about the Canes, and I am, but I also want to say that, you will see some growing pains with him because he more than likely it's hard to kick some habits, and he's a gunslinger. He'll tell you himself he's a gunslinger. So you will see some hiccups early on, but they will, I guarantee you, they'll win more than 3 games this upcoming season. I would be surprised if they win 6 or 7.
Yeah, if that, and I haven't seen what the Vegas odds are on that. I don't know what what the books are saying, on that. But if you're looking at an over under of 2.5, I mean, I would go over without a doubt. Yeah, I would go over it. Now again, I'm not calling for 9 wins, but I could see that team winning 6 games.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said 6 games. I think they win 6 games with him.
I could see them. I could see them being, and again, 16-11 isn't a stellar season by any stretch of the imagination. But again, when you have a rookie starting quarterback, a guy who's early on in his head coaching career, I think 16-11 has to be looked at as fairly positive, moving forward. So, again, I'd have no issue, putting money on 6 wins for the Titans.
No, neither do I. I think 6 is a very, very viable option for them.
Look at those numbers right there, man. See what Vegas is saying about that, man. I might want to put down somebody to put down a few bucks on me for for that over. Depending.
Yeah, definitely over 2.
Depending on what that looks like. Again, if you're listen, if the over under is 2.5, I would without a doubt I'd put money on that immediately.
No, you definitely want to take the over.
Immediately, I would take
You
the
definitely
over
want
on
to.
that.
Cam Ward is not losing. Is not winning only 3 games his rookie year.
No, no, he's
It's
not losing
not going to
14 games,
happen.
bro. He's not losing 14 games. But again, I'm not saying they have the most talented group of skill position guys around them, but again, they're not terrible. They're not terrible. I think you've got some guys, behind again. Calvin Ridley got Van Jefferson backing him up. Who I think that's not terrible. Again, the O line in front of him is good. I think this kid Gunnar Helm that they drafted at tight end, I think is going to end up, having a decent role before the season's up. Again, man. So if they run the ball, if they're able to run the ball, I think Cam is going to have a really really good year. For again, considering right, he's a rookie and the whole deal. But I think he's going to have a good year.
No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I'll be honest about. And just to add another point, a lot of people do feel that Mike Vrabel was let go a little too early. They should have given him another chance. So you're one of those that let go a little too early. Yeah,
1,000%.
yeah, let go
There's
a little too
no
early.
reason
So
why he should have been fired.
so I'm just saying that because of your comment about they're not that bad. So like I said, Mike Vrabel was like, oh, there's a reason why they told Jeremeo see ya, and they picked up Mike Vrabel because they feel like he's a competent head coach and
100%.
he's gonna take the Patriots that drafted very well, and those guys are gonna make us somewhat of a run this year, better than they did the year before with Coach Mayo. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I was shocked, man. When he got fired, I was like, "Ooh, man, I don't know about that one, man." I think that was a quick hook, to be totally honest with you. And I always knew that he was going to end up landing, somewhere that he was going to be in high demand. When it came time for him to interview and be considered for jobs, I knew Mike Vrabel was going to be one of those guys that was going to be in high demand. I'm like I said, I was totally shocked when they got rid of him. I thought that was way too quick a hook for a team that really didn't have much around him, and the rest is history. We'll see. Hopefully, it works out for Cam, but yeah, a guy who I'm not sure what they were thinking when all that went down. So really surprising to me for sure.
I agree with you 1,000%.
All right, brother. Well, that's the end of it, man. Got through
That's
the
it.
got through the AFC South, and we'll see if our thoughts will hold true. Come season time. But yeah, man, 98 days to the start of the season. Every day we inch closer. And man, we're in OTAs, right? We're in phase 2. Phase 3 will be here before you know it. It'll be like middle to end of June. And the Hall of Fame game, to follow after that, end of August. And before you know it, man, we'll be right in the thick of it, man. So definitely looking forward to it, man. Every day that gets closer, man, I'm okay with it.
No, I can't wait, man. I can't wait for football season to start. To be honest with you, man, I'm looking forward to our football teams getting out there and finally getting at it, dude. I mean, I'm happy because, like I said, I'm a Panthers fan, and the Panthers are kicking butt. They're going to the Cup again, and so it's been a nice story. But man, I miss football too. I really do miss that, and I'm excited about I'm excited about more about the Canes than I'm about the Dolphins. To be honest with you, we just talked off air how I feel about the Jonnu Smith trade situation, but I'm excited about Canes football. I'll tell you that much.
Mm-hmm. I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you. Like I said, I definitely expect a big season from them this year. Time will tell. Hopefully they got their stuff together. Carson Beck comes in and does his thing, and hopefully leads them to Charlotte for the ACC title game, man. So we'll see.
That's the plan, man. That's the goal.
We'll see how it goes, man. We'll see how it goes.
Goal.
All right, guys. Appreciate you joining us tonight. If you like what you heard, do me a huge, huge, huge favor. Like and subscribe to the show. I Hate Football Podcast. Tell everybody where they can find you, my man.
All right, guys. You can find me on Twitter or X. Yeah, X now. At William Padron at 305 Sports Now. And, of course, you can find me on YouTube. Just look up 305 Sports Out. Hit that like and subscribe button. I just released a new episode today in which I'm covering the official visits this week in Miami. Has 17 blue chip athletes coming over to Green Tree to meet with the coaching staff, etc. So it should be an exciting weekend for college football. And I'm not sure if I'm going to air a Saturday. I have to find time to make it. But my next possible Kane segment is going to be on none other than Justice Fitzpatrick, the younger brother of Minka Fitzpatrick, who's a top 5 corner in the country coming out of St. Thomas Aquinas High School.
Big time, kid. Also, guys, again, you can find me at I Hate Football Podcast on YouTube, I Hate Football Podcast on Instagram, Hate Football Pod on X/Twitter. And look out for some content we got coming out soon, man. I'm getting with my guy Bobby and the guys at FTSN. We'll be putting out the first episode of FTSN College Blitz tomorrow. So kind of looking forward to that. Definitely excited for that new venture. We'll see how that goes. So do me a favor, go ahead and find that show and like and subscribe to it as well. And that's all we got for you guys. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate the comments in the comment section from Steve. Appreciate you, my man. And Will, as always, brother. Appreciate you. And we'll get together soon. You guys have a good night.